So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. Then there was some information a few moments ago where then London very wisely is already linking up their media with New Zealand. Very wise, because there is a huge media update going on. And then the BBC also working in their department, making sure they get their department updated, and they are linking up with the Pacific. Very smart. Because as we understand, comes then the system from the east, from China, through the Pacific, and then the islands of the Pacific, already aware of, such as Malaysia, they have a circuitry of their own trade, and they are becoming very popular. And then these days where we find then we, unfortunately on the other side of the planet, absolutely oblivious of these system coming. So then let's evaluate from what the Messiah has said regarding then this new system. There's a lot of areas where we can find, firstly then, the prophet of old, Yeshayahu, known as Isaiah. In the 61st chapter, where we read then, those cities laid waste for many centuries, those are the cities of the Messiah coming back. We've come out of the time of deceit for 1,000 years, from 1009 to 2009, where then deceit was then practiced. In 2009 then has ended the time of deceit, and we've entered the time of the dragon. Thus then we understand the dragon system coming through the Chinese dragon. So then they are coming through the east, obviously, and then through the Pacific, and then come towards us. But then we are caught unawares. Why? Because the system of United States, as the monetary worldwide system, very famous in the past, was concocted during the time of the deceit. So then, because of these, as we understand the time of restoration of the holy cities, whatsoever then was concocted during the 1,000 years of deceit from 1009 to 2009, we understand the Creator has junked it. Why has He done it? Because He has to have a specific neutral system, so then we can understand tabernacling and the world's trade. So then we understand why. Where do we find this information? We find it very simply in then Yeshayahu. Then we find also in Galah, or Revelation, chapter 1:8. How do we know? Because the freighters of the earth is going to be in charge. How do we know this? Because the Messiah did not state of kingdoms. He was explaining and the freighters. So then we can understand governments of the world are going to be out of service. Then the freighters of the earth is going to be in charge. So then what do you expect from freighters? You expect parcels, you expect then containers. You expect a lot of movement of shipments around the world. How do we understand this? There are many areas where we can understand. For instance, Daniel the prophet, you kind of remind yourself, when you were a boy or girl, and then the understanding of the statue, and then the base of the statue with iron clay. Some of the countries would be strong, some of the countries would be weak. But since we've turned from the seat to the time of the dragon, then we understand those nations trying to unite themselves with a system, such as the euro, would not hold together, as the prophet has stated. We understand Cyprus, they are from the Eurozone, and they are breaking away from. And then the prophet said, then the nations would try to come together and adhere to each other, but they would not. So then the subsystem of the euro is already showing signs of imbalance. When the new system of the Chinese comes, then in the next shortly 36 months, what can we expect? We can expect, unfortunately, or fortunately, United Kingdom then separating, and also the Eurozone breaking. Otherwise, whosoever then is involved with the nation subsystem such as the United Kingdom. What was then united? Because the world had no tabernacling. So then they had to have a new world order in order to make the world in order. Isn't that profound? So then, after these, we find then the Eurozone breaking and then the system coming. But the Creator very smartly, He has lined up the situation where then these breaking away of systems, they're going to start breaking a bit prior of the coming of the system of the East. As He always is smart, we can't outsmart the Creator. He is extremely smart, and the best for us is then invest in areas of mining, transportation, because we understand, for instance, Africa is then the kingdom of the South. We understand the kingdom of the North is then Soviet Union. And we understand then the East is then China. And then we understand we are only a short few years away from the autumn feast. So then lots of situations going on. And then as we've heard from the media, London is already updating their system, the BBC, and then One News from New Zealand, they are already gathering their information, linking up their systems, because they understand there is a system coming from the East, and then the rest of the world more than likely going to be caught unawares. But the Messiah left no space for doubting, did he? He said very precisely, Revelation 1:8, and the freighters of the earth. So he was speaking from the time of restoration, because why did he say then come out of them, my people, so then you would not be destroyed with them? He's explaining, return to your duties, because the autumn feast is coming. So then you begin to understand, we are during the time of the dragon, no longer time of deceit, but then lots of nations, they are clinging back to the deceit of the 1,000 years. But then the new system coming from the East does not let you deceive anymore. What can we expect? Retailers going out of work, because you can order directly from China or then the nations of the East, and a lot of it for the half of the price, and sometimes you can get the products not only half of the price, when with no charge for freight. What else can we expect? Customs then being absolutely overwhelmed with so many packages coming, parcels coming, containers coming, ships lining up at the dock. We find an angry captains, very angry at the port because they can't dock at the port because they are absolutely overwhelmed beyond understanding. That's what the Messiah said. If we read it then from the future, then we have to understand then the steps of formation coming backwards. What did the Messiah say? Freighters of the earth. Freighters of the earth, they are in charge, because the Messiah always speaks from on charge viewpoint. So then what can you expect from the freighters? Transportation, lots of packages around. And then ships lining up at the docks. And then captains extremely angry because there is no space for them to dock their ships. And then you find the government not charging tax. What did the Messiah said? Give to the government what belongs to the government, and God what belongs to God. What he was saying, if you want some organization in your system, make sure you pay your taxes. But the governments are not charging taxes instantly as they were told. When the system comes, governments are going to be caught unawares, and then the people, they are going to start downloading the Chinese system in their computers. Understandable, because the Chinese system is a government property. Oh, we didn't understand, but they are socialists, are they not? But they have the production and military style, so the stock market always goes up, never down. What is going to take place with governments if they don't charge taxes? They're going to be ruined. And then they're going to start taking orders from the freighters. So this situation of scoundrels of politicians, get up in the morning, there is a car over there from the government awaiting. Gasoline paid for, they eat from the government, they have lots of benefits. And they go over there in the government, they talk around, you know, goes up and down, and then sits down and talk a bit, and then nice lunch paid by the government, goes home, and with the government paying for the gasoline, house is paid for, these kind of niceties, they are out of it. Because the Messiah has said the freighters are in charge. Those scoundrels, lazy liars, they're going to be out of job. And then we have got a lot of work to do. Updating our ports, understanding transportation, easy trucks, easy fixings, and then obviously understanding fuel is going to be very important, and most importantly the relationship with Ishmael and Isaac, the lineage of them both coming together as a unit. The rest of the world, go to work. Because coming a lot of packages and the government can't pay their people. Federal workers, they are going to have no pay. Why? Because they are not taxing. How do we know this? Because when you download the Chinese system in your computer, you are dealing with a foreign system where you can get products and the government can't read what you are doing. Then there are closed circuitries, financial institutions where you can get funding and you placed in a system and the government can't read it. You can have 12 digits over there, 20 digits if you want, and the government can't read it. Then you order parcels and packages in containers via this system and the government doesn't know it. And since it goes through then a private company making deliveries, the private companies, they also get paid via the system. And the government can't prove a damn thing. And they are not charging taxes for each of the parcels. So they're going to be absolutely overwhelmed with panic around. Read what the Messiah has said, and the freighters of the earth. What would be the counter understanding of it? Oh, make sure then every time there is a label printed out, there must have a description and also the price, so then the government can be taxed properly. In other words, then each package gets taxed and the government then gets their 10%. If we don't do what the Messiah said, give to the government what belongs to the government, then they're going to get ruined. Plan B of the United States is to go underground. They already have a plan over there in the Ozarks, a huge place over there. The new center of the United States. What they're going to govern, only God knows. Because without a monetary system to be governing from below, what can they do on the surface? People are going to be angry. They don't have services. Obviously they're going to be throwing dynamite from the top of the mountains. After so many understandings and clarifications and revelations, so then let's get to work. Because government so far, they are stupid.